How is it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today's video we look at the Jaegeru line. It has been updated. It will be coming into the game tomorrow. We're looking at the update news and everything regarding the update coming in tomorrow as of the recording of this video. So, the Jaegeru line. What is the Jaegeru line? Well, it is the super armoured tank destroyer line for the German tech tree, and this is what it basically looks like, the tier 10. Of course, it's kind of got this big superstructure which you can bounce a lot of rounds off of, unless you're firing against other Jaegerus, at which point heat ammo goes pretty much straight through the front of it. And so yes, Wargaming are trying to combat the whole tank line being pretty irrelevant within World of Tanks console, at least within the last couple of kind of years, I'd say. Actually, the Jaegeru's been definitely one of the ones that's been at the bottom of the heap, and I guess that what they've tried to do is just buff that entire line and certainly make it a lot more usable, grinding up towards the Jaegeru itself, and of course all of the premiums associated with this style of tank destroyer within World of Tanks. So what does this tank actually have going for it? Well, it has, of course, that high alpha damage gun, 1050 damage, of course, and the key thing about it is that it is pretty slow. So your top speed whilst moving is roughly 30 kilometers an hour. That's on console, however. Well, that's on PC statistics here, so we won't look at them. But what we can do is, of course, look at what the upgrades coming to the Jaegeru line actually are. And what that'll mean for the tank is essentially a 12 to 14 reverse speed. So we're getting an extra 2 kilometers an hour faster backwards, which is very disappointing. What I would have liked to have seen on the Jaegeru is potentially buffing this lower plate slightly to enable just a few bounces off of it. Because often, if you're coming up against tier 8s and they get the lower plate of you in a Jaegeru, that's pretty much game over. They'll pen you every single time. And then often, if they've got super high penetration rounds on their premium, they'll just go through the upper armor of the superstructure here, which, you know, you're going to need about 300 millimeters of penetration, which most tier 10s and certainly a lot of the high caliber tier 8 premiums with high penetration rounds, things I think like the Scorpion G, get probably 300 millimeter plus on their premium rounds. So yeah, the Jaegeru. What I'd have loved to have seen, some slight armour buffs, nothing major, would have just given the tank a little bit more and make you kind of question whether you want to poke out against the Jaegeru, especially if it's got its armour towards you. So the next thing in the line, this isn't where it stops. We've got the Jagdtiger tank destroyer, and as we go down, basically they get a lot better, the buffs. And so yeah, I think the grind was the key thing about making the tier 9 to the tier 6 a lot better. So the Jagdtiger tank destroyer, what have we got? Well, we've got an extra 35 millimeters of upper hull armor, meaning that yes, you will be able to actually bounce rounds in this thing, rather than previously where, to be honest, the Jagdtiger armor is pretty weak. You're able to go through the majority of it very easily, and as with the kind of upper hull, you've got this area here is 150 on PC, so you'll basically be looking at having probably 240 millimeters of effective armor on your upper hull, meaning that, yeah, you probably will have around about the same whether you hit this area here or the upper hull. So when you're angling, when you're trying to bounce a couple of shots, you'll be able to actually bounce some more if you do angle like this. And so that's where this armor model and where you're going to be having that extra 35 millimeters of armor could really help out. So you're going to bounce a lot more if you wiggle like this, as opposed to previously where they'll pretty much pen you regardless of whether you angle like this. So that's kind of something that I think is pretty good about these buffs to the Jagdtiger line. Anyway, reverse speed has also gone up by 4 kilometers an hour, making the tank a hell of a lot more usable, at least when you're trying to back up and maybe switch around and twist and stuff like that as you're reversing, and maybe you went round a corner too far and you've got to pull back now. That's going to make it a hell of a lot easier than it was previously. That's an extra 33% better reverse speed, which is nice. Now, one of the tanks that you'll probably, if you've ever played, will know that this tank is just terrible, or at least it was. I don't know how it will be now with the upgrades that this tank is going to be getting, but I certainly think that it's going to be a lot more armoured, meaning that yes, you probably will be able to bounce at least a couple of rounds within the Ferdinand. Now, the Ferdinand, if you've ever played the Tiger P, is basically the tank destroyer version, with this lower half of it being a Tiger P hull, and then you've got like this superstructure like a Jagdtiger, and so yes, it will be a lot better. So this is what the Ferdinand actually looks like in game, and of course you really don't have much armour with this thing. You certainly won't be able to bounce very much, and often, because it has absolutely no angling, the Germans for some reason didn't realise about that until later on, but you can see it's just all flat plates on the front of the turret. You can see there's flat plates on the hull, and there's only a couple of real bouncy angles that you can really hit onto on the front of this tank. So as long as you have that high penetration rounds to be able to just get through the sheer thickness of the armour on the Ferdinand, then you'll be absolutely fine. That's where this tank really was just a pain in the backside if you've ever actually ground through this to be able to get to the Jaegeru. I mean, myself personally, I went with this thinking it's going to be a super heavily armoured tank. Oh god, it was not. It is just a worse version of the Jagdpanther II. Now, with these buffs, basically what they're saying is that they're going to be giving the frontal superstructure an extra 50mm of armour. So this is this area up here. This will be getting the 50mm extra. And so you'll probably be looking at about 260mm of penetration to go through there, which is going to be a lot more significant for being able to reliably go through the Ferdinand, especially if you're auto-aiming the thing. Not that you should, but yeah, if you are, you're not going to be you're not going to be penning very much on the Ferdinand anymore. As far as the extras on this tank with the buffs, well, we've also got the upper hull areas getting buffed. So this area up here is going to be going up from 200 to 215 right here. We've also got that reverse speed buff of a nice 40% extra, which means that yes, you will be able to actually reverse in this thing now comparatively to previously. Now with this as well, we've got the whole corners and side of main structure going up from 80 to 110mm of armour. So yes, you will be potentially able to side scrape in the Ferdinand, at least. Well, you could have previously, but now you'll be able to actually reliably kind of side scrape, and you will have more than enough to be able to avoid getting shot and pen through the side. The one problem that this tank has is, of course, these flat areas on the side of the left hand side and the right hand side that you can see here, which are both 80 going up to 115. So yeah, you'll be able to kind of wiggle with the Ferdinand and try and hope that your opponent will basically bounce off of them. Now moving on to a tank that probably doesn't need buffs, since it's a pretty decent tank within the game already, and to be honest with you, I would just leave it how it was. This could make it seriously something else. The Jagdpanther II, the tier 8 alternative tank destroyer that you can actually play if you're going towards the Jaegeru. I don't know that the PC version actually have it on there, but basically what this tank is a super fast Ferdinand, essentially. It's like a Jagdpanther, the tier 7 upgraded, goes a lot faster, 55 kilometers an hour compared to the 30 kilometers an hour of the Ferdinand, which 100% doesn't actually go 30 kilometers an hour, so yeah, good luck with trying to get that consistently. The Jagdpanther II then has this the same kind of gun, 490 alpha damage, pretty decent rate of fire for a tier 8, and it's also got really nice pen. It's got decent hit points. Only problem with it is the armor profile isn't necessarily the best in the world, but it's nothing to be really ashamed of. I just think that overall it's going to be a nice buff, and certainly a line that I would probably want to get. And definitely don't go with the Ferdinand if you're going down that line unless you really want to play it, which I wouldn't recommend, to be honest. Now moving down, of course, we have the Jagdpanther, the tier 7, the one we've just talked about. It's basically got some upgrades. So a lot of these tanks have got general gun changes. which are that they basically got an upgrade to penetration. So any gun that is the 8.8 pack from the German line on both the Jagdpanzer 5 or 4 even, the Jagdpanther and the Nashorn all got upgraded penetration, so it's not too bad. And also we've got some reverse speed upgrades, which is very, very nice. An extra 50% reverse speed, meaning that yes, you'll be able to reverse around that corner a little bit quicker. And of course the hull armor, which is of course not the superstructure of these things, will be going up by 25mm, which is really, really nice. Could potentially bounce a couple of rounds in this thing. It doesn't really, to be honest, and most things will probably have way above 105, and remember it's angled, so you're probably looking in the region of 150mm of penetration to be able to go straight through the front of the Jagdpanther. You can see that the angling is actually not so bad on this thing. You see it's quite sloped. Now moving down, the Jagdpanther IV, the tank destroyer, it's got a nice reverse speed increase, not massive, it's probably the lowest of the line so far, but it has got significant buffs to its gun and the reload speed, accuracy, and that's for both of the guns that this can get. Then of course we have the German Tier 5, the Stug 3 Alfs G, the tank destroyer, an extra 20 meters view range, better reverse speed, better concealment, better moving concealment. It's basically just a better tank overall now. And then we've got the Tier 4 Hetzer. This tank really doesn't need any buffs, but they've just basically gone with what they've done with the majority of the tanks, is buffing that reverse speed. As with the normal tanks, we have the premium tanks now, and we can get into the nitty gritty. Have they overpowered some of the premium tanks on this line? Now the first one, I can tell you 100% will not be overpowered, and that is because it is the Fortress Ferdinand. This is of course a Ferdinand that has 320 alpha damage, and yeah, looks pretty nice, but it's pretty terrible within the game. So, view range has gone up by 10 meters, which is, you know, it's coming up to a standard amount at tier 8, I guess. Then we've also got the hull armor, as with the Ferdinand, getting all of those buffs. The one thing that it really does get as well is the engine and horsepower getting buffed as well, meaning that yes, you will be able to get up to top speed faster, better reverse speed, better reload as well. And so I think it will make it a little bit more competitive with some of the other tier 8 tank destroyers. But if you are going for a premium tier 8 German tank destroyer, just go with the Scorpion G. There's absolutely no reason you'd purchase the Fortress Ferdinand, because it is just a worse version, gets less alpha. Yes, it has more hit points, less penetration, armor doesn't actually really work, and so yeah, I just don't think that it's the one to go with. Now, as with all of them, the German Tier 8 Jagdtiger 88, which is of course one of the oldest premium tanks within World of Tanks. For those of you that don't know, it's essentially just like a Jagdtiger hull that's not actually got the Jagdtiger armor thicknesses, and then it's got this kind of 8.8 centimeter 240 alpha damage super fast firing gun. It's basically got some horsepower buffs, which means it will get up to top speed faster, and so yes, you might actually be able to get up to the top speed of 38 kilometers an hour a lot more consistently anyway. Now, as with the previous, we've got the same sort of thing going on. The Panzernacker auto tank at tier 8 it's a Jagdpanther that's got an autoloader, 240 per shot, 3 shots in the clip, 2-second intra clip. It's basically 720 damage all in one go with a tier 8 tank destroyer, but essentially it's a tier 7, so the trade-off between going up a single tier is that you get the autoloader and the ability to deal 720 damage, and that is pretty much it. You're essentially just a Jagdpanther, but a tier higher, and of course you've got better max speed, and as such you have also got better armor now. You've got up from 80 to 105, so you might actually be able to bounce one, and of course the reverse speed has gone up by 50%, which is really nice, and the penetration has also gone up, making the tank potentially better to actually play. You might be able to pen some of those tier 10s that you'll come up against in the tank. Now, Stug 4, basically the premium one, the reverse speed has just gone up by 4, and similarly the Stug 3 tank destroyer, the hidden, has also gone up by 4. If you actually want to get the Jagdpanther or any of these tanks that we talked about on the tech tree, there is a 50% silver discount between tiers 3 and tier 6, so it's definitely worth grinding towards. It's a fantastic time to do so, and a 30% silver discount between tiers 7 and tiers 10. It's looking like it's going to be a very interesting grind if you haven't already gone there, and definitely if it is you that's grinding towards the tier 10 Jaegeru, if you haven't already got it, or if you're revisiting, definitely try out that Jagdpanther II. It is a fantastic tank, and I'm going to be getting my hands on it, trying to do a review at some point in the future. That's pretty much it for the buffs and stuff that we've got to the Jaegeru line and the basically all of that sort of stuff. But I think we'll move on to the extras with regards to what's coming tomorrow as well. So we won't go into too much detail as to this because we've already looked through some of this information, but I do want to just reiterate the key points. Of course, we'll be getting the new tank, which is for the Détente era in the Cold War game mode, being the Teledyne Continental Motors AGS Détente era Western Alliance light tank. That's a mouthful, but it's essentially potentially another broken light tank at at the top tier in Cold War after they've just nerfed the Armadillo to basically I don't know how I feel about that. Hopefully it's not just another broken one that they keep releasing Cold War for people to buy. It seems like a pretty much their plan, to be honest. Everyone keeps buying them because they're just overpowered, and then they potentially nerf them later on down the line if they need to. Of course, not only that, we have got the next TD line, which will receive armor improvements, is the USSR TD line, which is most likely going to be the Object 263 and potentially the Object 268 version 4 in the Russian tech tree, and that will be coming potentially next week or the week after in the Tanks Reforged. So that's the next one that will receive it. With this, of course, the next week on the season challenges will be updated as well, and you can continue to do your challenges and the November tank of the month kind of operation thing where you can potentially get a black tank, the T-34 or the Jagdtiger for playing every day, and the Ernop for the black IS-6 or Minotaur or the Demolisher T-28. And so you have to go on and basically just continually play that and earn it every single day. Now, hopefully that is everything you'll need to know so far, and of course tomorrow, as of the update release, we're going to go through everything and have a look for you on the day. So thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for watching all of my content, and if you aren't subscribed, maybe tune in to a couple more of my videos and decide whether you want to do that, and there should be some on screen that you can do so now. Other than that, I see you in those videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.